Baik, terima kasih Harith. Melalui angka-angka itu menunjukkan potongan cukai itu sudah tentu memberikan segelintir masyarakat terutama M40 untuk bernafas dengan lega sedikit. Namun bagaimana pula dengan pertumbuhan ekonomi negara kita? Kerana kita tahu cukai ini adalah antara komponen terbesar sumber kewangan negara kita. Jadi sudah sedia untuk mengulas lanjut mengenai perkara ini untuk bantu kita fahami, sudah sedia di talian bersama Farah Rosli, Malaysia Tax Managing Partner, Ernst & Young Tax Consultant Sdn Bhd. Hi Farah, thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, Farah, let's start with the tax reduction or exemption. For resident individuals, income tax rate will be reduced by 2 percentage points for the chargeable income band of between more than 50,000 ringgit to 100,000 ringgit. And of course, the details has been presented by my colleague Harith. So what's your take on this? Will this reduce the real burden of M40? What's the impact in terms of economic scale this would bring? Farah?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that question as well. A lot of people are actually really already asking the impact to what does it mean? What is the impact to me? But firstly, let me just briefly mention on the broad perspective of budget 2023. The budget was actually unveiled against the backdrop of projected economic growth of 6.5% to 7% this year, and 4 to 5% for next year, 2023. And this means also the government spending is expected to increase by 12% to 373, almost 373 billion ringgit. Yeah, and there was also mention of the importance of M40, B40, and that's why we are coming back to this question. And we know then that M40 has been saying then that in the past budgets there are not much, or in fact not much or very minimal being M40 being included in any of the budget mentions. Yeah, and so it's very encouraging to see then that budget 2023 takes into consideration the M40 group. And it shows in that this group is actually really impacted because of the inflation, the higher cost of living. Everyone is saying then the price of goods have increased. And if we go back slightly, the bracket of the tax in Malaysia is quite narrow. We have 8 tax brackets from 0% to 200k, right? Above 100k, there's more tax brackets. Yeah. So the group that's been impacted here, as Harith has earlier shown, is the group between 50,000 ringgit to 100,000 ringgit, and this group has not enjoyed or has not had any reduction in taxes. From my records, I was trying to look back since 2015. I suspect it's even longer. I haven't had the chance to go back, research through to the end, to the back. But the last, at least 2015, there was no reduction of income tax for this bracket. But the B40s, which is the income tax bracket lower than this, actually had a reduction in taxes at the last 2-3 years. So what does it mean then? That the reduction of the 2% of taxes for resident individuals with chargeable income between 50k to 17k and will be reduced by 2%, and same goes for 70k to 100k will be reduced by another 100,000 ringgit. And this income group, will, as what Harith has explained earlier, will enjoy a 400 ringgit for the 50 to 70k income group, and the second bracket 70k to 100k will enjoy a tax savings of 100,000. This will mean there will be more disposable income that can be spent in the economy, which then means that this hopefully will help to generate the spur of the economy. So it is a good welcome move, and this will impact millions of taxpayers within this income tax range.
Yeah, Farah, a reduction of tax rate to 15% for the first 100,000 ringgit taxable income for the SMEs. Will this give enough room and further propel their recovery, Farah?
Yeah, so for SME, the income tax rate for micro, small and medium enterprises, and there's a definition of what would be ME or micro, small and medium enterprise, will be reduced from 17% to 15%, as you have rightly said. And this is for the first 100,000 ringgit of chargeable income from the year of assessment or from the year 2023, and but above 600,000 ringgit, the income tax, the taxable income will still be charged at 24%. Yeah. So what it means in that for the first 100,000, the rate will be 15%. For 100,000 to 600,000, the tax rate will be 17%. For taxable income above 600,000, it would be 24%. I would like to comment then that this budget covers the importance of SMEs and recognize it as an importance, the importance of it as engine of growth, as well as innovation. Yeah. Therefore, the introduction of the various, not just the reduction of the taxes for for SMEs, but the various schemes to promote and bolster the development of SMEs, amongst others, as we have discussed earlier, the reduction of corporate taxes, and the provision of, there's also a provision of one-off grant for eligible SMEs, and introduction of various hiring and training incentives. And I'm a proponent of training, skilling, and upskilling, because as a nation, we really need new, fresh, even graduates or even students, when they come back to the workforce, when they come into the workforce, or even existing workforce, to have the necessary skills to support the industry. And this will mean creating a supportive environment. The tax rate plus all the other benefits, grants, incentives will create an environment for SMEs and help them to catalyze SMEs, and this will create more employment, and through this employment, again, more disposable income that will help spur the economy and generate growth in the economy.
All right, Farah, now let's address the elephant in the room. More tax reduction is introduced, and the key revenue-raising measures announced were the implementation of the 15% global minimum tax in 2024, e-invoicing, potential carbon taxes, and increased customs enforcement. It seems that the government will lose quite a bit of an income. Will it lead to a wider fiscal deficit? What's your take on this?
Yeah, I have a slightly different view to that. Yes, there were all these, all this introduction of the implementation of 15% global minimum tax in 2024, e-invoicing, the carbon taxes, the increase in customs enforcement. I would say that these are key revenue raising measures announced. The implementation of the 15% global minimum tax in 2024, the e-invoicing, all these are relevant measures to help the government work towards increasing the tax revenue for the country. There will be appropriate transitional rules that will be developed to ensure that businesses will have adequate time, and that's very important. I always say then that we can introduce the measures, but we must give enough time to businesses to be able to adapt and also get ready with any introduction of new rules. Yeah. It is also important that these measures will be balanced with the intention to maintain Malaysia's attractiveness as an investment destination. So I would say that despite there are proposed reduction in income personal tax, proposed reduction in the SME tax rate, the earlier mentioned initiative will help government to increase the tax revenue, maybe not in the short term, but maybe the medium to the longer term. And the other means of collecting additional revenue, I would say, is in that there will also be hopefully better performance of businesses coming from the COVID-19 pandemic. Businesses will be performing better and resulting in higher tax collections coming from the better business performance, as well as individuals coming back to work, and they will also be earning income that would be brought to tax. And briefly mentioning the earlier mention, when you mentioned the introduction of the 15% global minimum tax, this underpins Malaysia's commitment to the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, in short OECD, based erosion profit shifting initiative to combat perceived aggressive cross-border tax planning. And this is actually a mean to try to plug a hole to the government's coffers from the reduced taxes due to perceived aggressive cross-border tax planning. And the global minimum tax imposed on effective tax rate of 15% applies on a jurisdictional basis. A lot of technicality in that which I will not touch on. But I would say then that the impacted group will need to ensure that boards and senior managements are aware of the potential impact of BEPS 2.0, base erosion profit shifting, and it is a relatively complex rules and exclusions. And again, I would say businesses would need to be ready and would need to see how would this impact their businesses moving forward.
Farah, so meaning that there's no new tax, there's no GST, but we don't know, maybe just around the corner or maybe next year the new tax will be announced. So if we look at the government project revenue collection to be at some around 273 billion ringgit compared to this year 2022, revised revenue projection of 285 billion ringgit. So this is a drop in revenue from 285 to 273 next year. Of course, we are looking at a very narrow tax base. And within that, we're seeing 2 percentage points on some brackets and collection reduction in the income tax segment. Do you feel that GST or SST is no longer sustainable to support this kind of budget?
GST is a broad-based consumption tax, and it will be a good tax to introduce because it will be everyone will be taxed as long as you consume something. There will be tax on that amount that you are paying. 6%, whether it's going to be 4%, or whatever percentage is going to be, there will be tax on it. And the yes, you're right, Harith. The government will need to look at measures in terms of how to increase tax revenues, and there were no specific new taxes being mentioned immediately. But if you read the budget speech, if you listen to that, lots of media has covered the tax budget 2023. There was some mention, for example, the study of carbon taxes. And that would be forthcoming, and that's really in line with what Malaysia is moving towards reducing or being sustainable, and this is part of the ESG, environmental social governance agenda. There is also a mention of introduction of tax identification number, and this means in that from next year onwards, you, me, all of us will have a TIN number attached to us, and this would mean then that everyone will come to the surface. Those have not been for any reason whatsoever, have not come into the tax bracket and have not declared or brought their income to taxes for any reason, with this tax identification number, they would now need to pay the taxes or declare and make the necessary commitment to pay the taxes. There is also the introduction of e-invoicing. E-invoicing has been introduced and we will join many other countries around the world. Philippines has it, many other countries around the world. Brazil, for example, has e-invoicing, many countries. And with the introduction of e-invoicing, this will also be another mechanism to ensure then that the amount of income that a person or a company or a business makes will be caught within the tax system, and the necessary income will be declared. And this is more of a cooperative compliance, meaning you pay taxes not when the tax man comes to you, but as and when you use your money to generate the economy, or when you spend, the e-invoicing will automatically capture the income that's due to be that where tax needs to be paid on. So there are other revenue measures that's been mentioned in the budget, but of course there would be time that's needed for businesses to be ready once all this is being introduced, so that it doesn't become as a surprise, as a shock to the business, to enable that their system and their people and their administrative process is able to cope with the changes as needed to ensure then that the taxes are being collected correctly.
Farah, just a short one, less than a minute. When do you think the right time to implement back the GST, and maybe some percentage of what the exact percentage that you're looking for?
I love Harith for asking all this, catching me to ask what is the $1 million question. I don't have a crystal ball, Harith, but I would say then that if GST is going to be implemented and it's a good tax, number one, we must ensure then that we ensure then that businesses are ready.
Yeah.
And perhaps businesses need between 9 months to 12 months to ensure that the system is ready and there is education in terms of how ready are they to be able to ensure then that their system and the business is ready to implement GST. The percentage rate, Harith, perhaps between 4 to 6%, but you need to make sure then that it doesn't hurt the man on the street.
Yeah.
It doesn't cause further increase in price, as well as it is the right amount to enable government to collect the right amount of taxes for the growth of the nation.
Right.
All right, Farah, thank you for the insight about to help us understand better on the impact of tax reductions. I want to say thank you very much to Farah Rosli, the Malaysia Tax Managing Partner Ernst & Young, Tax Consultant Sdn Bhd. Dan sudah tentu apabila kita bercakap mengenai cukai, tidak ramai menggemarinya. Namun cukai ini merupakan satu instrumen penting ekonomi untuk sesebuah negara menjana hasil atau pendapatan. Dan bagaimana untuk kita, dan kita tidak boleh, cukai ini tidak boleh dipisahkan daripada kehidupan kita, termasuk juga dengan pentadbiran ekonomi dan negara. Namun ia begitu penting untuk kita faham bagaimana dan kenapa cukai ini diguna pakai oleh sesebuah negara agar ia tidak membebankan lagi rakyat dan bantu pacu pertumbuhan ekonomi. Jadi banyak lagi laporan yang akan kami bawakan. Niaga AWANI akan berhenti rehat seketika, kembali selepas ini.